Sean Meyer, Digital Content Editor at Municipal World. I'm here at the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities Conference here in lovely Halifax. And the next conversation that we're having in this podcast series is with a very special guest who I will let introduce himself.
Yes, I'm Jim Ryan. I'm entering my third term as mayor of the town of Pictou on the beautiful Northumberland shores of Nova Scotia.
Outstanding. You are a busy man, and yet you've chosen to take time out and come to this important conference. Clearly, you find a value in coming to this.
Yeah. The NSFM conferences and the FCM conferences, I find are excellent times to network.
Sure.
Sometimes you can feel pretty isolated in your own municipalities in terms of some of the issues you're dealing with and people you have to deal with and funding opportunities and so on.
Sure.
And I find these conferences to be excellent opportunities to do some of that networking and maybe ask some of those important questions that you might not be able to ask in your own neighborhood.
You only have communities of all sizes come to this conference, obviously, but whatever your size might be, you may not have the resources that a neighboring municipality does, and you can therefore ask somebody, how did you do this?
We're very fortunate in Pictou County because we have 5 smaller municipalities surrounded by a larger rural municipality. Mm-hmm. So we do work together on a lot of projects. We have some great partnerships, and we do get together as a group of mayors and wardens to discuss some of the issues that we share. But there's always other views, other municipalities that maybe are a little bit closely related in terms of their makeup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jim, you've been at this game for a long time, as you point out, your third term. You're no stranger to local government. What do you see the state of it today?
Well, like I said, I've been at it for 8 years now, and there have been some changes. And like most levels of government, I think you'll hear people talk about the influence of social media on government in terms of getting messages out, but also some of the messages that are out there that maybe aren't supportive of municipal governments. So you have to be cautious about what you say and how you respond to some of those criticisms and messages of support as well. So that's probably one of the biggest things. Climate and climate change has become a big issue over the last 8 to 10 years.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where almost all funding opportunities, for example, are based somewhat, if not completely, on climate mitigation and protecting the environment. So
and you happen to live in a municipality that is directly, at least it certainly seems from an outside perspective, climate change isn't arbitrary. It's not a mythical thing for you guys. No. You've had to deal with it.
Yeah. And we deal with it on a daily basis, basically. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our capital projects include, if not being completely directed to climate change issues. We're an old town, and a lot of our wastewater, for example, is funneled through combined sewer systems. So we're working at how do we separate our stormwater from our sanitary sewer.
Sure.
It not only creates capacity for treatment, but it also makes sure that we're not that water that falls in our community has a place to go.
Sure.
And a place to go where it's not going to disrupt other people's homes or their lives.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, climate change is a big one, but once upon a time, municipalities didn't have to deal with housing and mental health and all those like really big questions that seem to be out there. As a municipality that doesn't have, let's face it, none of them do, unlimited resources, how do you address those great big challenges that seem so big for even us municipalities as yours?
Well, I think like any municipality, partnerships are huge. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we're part of a group of 6 municipalities, so our healthcare system is tied to those 6 municipalities and the residents of the entire community. So it helps when you can work together and lobby as a group, to other levels of government that actually do have control over some of those important things like healthcare and road infrastructure, climate change, all of those things that need attention every day.
So let's focus in on one of the important considerations in your community. I know culture is very important. Certainly, Pictou Cultural Centre project, I looked into that very recently just to get a sense of it. It seems like a wonderful project that you're working on.
Yeah, it's speaking of partnerships, about probably 10, 12 years ago, there was a move by the Cost Society, who were operating in a 40-year-old building that was in need of a lot of repair. And the DeCoste Center, Performing Arts Center, of course, attracts a lot of shows to Pictou County and the town of Pictou specifically that you wouldn't typically see in communities our size. So, culturally, it has made a huge difference. Our local library was in the second floor of our town office building. It was a standard old library.
Oh, sure.
With lines of books, maybe a few desks tucked into the corner. And it was in definite need of upgrades, if not replacement completely. Right. So these two organizations got together, facilitated by the town, of course, to say, can we work on these things together? So over that period of about 10 or 12 years, there had been discussions, but really only within the last 5 years or so did we actually get together and start talking about an overall plan to do this, and started talking to other levels of government. We've been town of Pictou had been I wouldn't say thrust, but we were kind of put in a position of opportunity.
Sure.
About 4 years ago, we had a major industry in our community, or adjacent community, that literally cast a shadow of smog over our community,
right? And
that had recently closed. And it wasn't that long before we were able to pull together not only other municipalities, but the representatives from federal and provincial levels to take a look at our beautiful harbor and the beautiful space and say, what are the opportunities here? So this was one of those projects that was on the table. They've been looking for funding along with other organizations that were looking for funding, and the other levels of government said, you need a plan. You need to come up with a full plan for this waterfront. Basically, it has a new life, and how are you going to do that? And so we got to work with some of our provincial partners and created a waterfront master plan. And it's amazing how focused you can become when you put a real plan in place, because you can always reference back to that plan and say, this is what, through consultation, of course, this is a plan that the community wants, that the community needs. And it was a very important placemaking exercise. And, it evolved into this wonderful cultural hub that is really connects our main street to our waterfront in such a beautiful way, while providing the necessary improvements to our Performing Arts Center. Sure. And it is a beautiful library and creates beautiful space, opportunities for gathering in so many different ways.
I do like especially the focus on the harbor front, because there are a lot of communities probably sharing your situation where things just over time, it's not the priority. And then you finally find yourself, well, what do we do now? Your harbor front, I'm going to guess, is a very important key to your community. So you need to make the investment in that, don't you?
It is. And we have this beautiful plan, and plans are plans, but they require a tremendous amount of funding and money as well. So going forward, we don't have the funding to implement the entire plan. So it's going to be done in bits and pieces. But to your point, being a waterfront, when we talk about climate mitigation measures, for example, when we did do the cultural hub, we made sure that everything that we did on the water side of that hub was at the right levels, considering climate change and tides rising over the next 50 years, I believe. Absolutely. And right now we are tendering actually for a project to raise Call Avenue, which is our waterfront road, and it's right on the water. We're raising that as well, so it acts kind of as a berm, but it's going to allow us also to implement some of those design features of our waterfront plan, such as active transportation routes, new lighting, new curbing, and so on. So it all fits into the climate mitigation piece, but it also allows us to act on some of those important parts of the plan.
It's fun watching you talk about it because you get the smiles on your face. You seem very animated. When I reflect back, you did mention this is your third term, so you've been a part of making this happen. What does it feel like to be a part of? I mean, you're the mayor; it's a big part of, but you're still just a part of making this transformation happen. What's that feel like?
Well, it feels great, actually. Like I said, I and previous councils and the current council take a great deal of pride in the direction we're going in. So, yeah, I think we really look forward to the next step and everything that's going to move forward with our waterfront plan. So I mean, far be it from me to take credit for this.
Absolutely.
Things have fallen into place for us quite nicely. Back to the beginning of my conversation, some great partnerships. We have partnerships. So, for example, the New Cultural Centre, we have a direct partnership with the municipality of Pictou County, which is a rural municipality. So they share in it besides all the corporate and private donations. So all of that business of bringing together this cultural hub and the other aspects of the waterfront, such as the ship Hector, which is a big part of our waterfront. There's a replica ship there, an interpretive center that's been around since the 90s, and that's all being redone. We're building a new wharf and marina because the previous one that was built in the 90s had temporary floating breakwaters and so on. So we're doing all of this over the next few years, and a lot of that stuff is in progress now. And so I do have a great deal of pride in that tourist aspect, but more than anything else, it's about the placemaking for communities. If you don't do this for the people in your community, then you really might as well not do it. It has to be for the residents of the town.
Absolutely.
And
tourism is fantastic, but
that's what people want to see as tourists too. At least me. If I go to a community, I want to see the community. I want to see what's going on in that community. We have a wharf, wharves, where industry takes place. We have a shipyard with a wonderful marine railway that seems to be working fairly steady now. So it's important that we build on all those assets because they're an important part of our history and our culture, both now and going forward.
That's an important message to leave this conversation with. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Nice talking to you.
Thanks so much.